Here's an exercise that is a really great tool in order to get people to understand the process in how we make decisions and choices. And essentially, what this is for us to gain insight of the people that we're in relationship with, right? Those that we serve, those that we work with, and how this exercise works is if everyone can get a piece of paper, please, and a writing implement of some kind, marker, it does not matter, what it is that you might have. And we're going to ask you, once you have it in hand, if you would please just comment onto the side so we can see that we're making movement, but we'll definitely give time for folks to find it. Got it? Cool. Thanks, Asha. Hey, I loved your Nas quote, Asha. I was just listening to that song the other day. It was what is it? I believe I can be what I want to be, right? And I was showing my kids and I we were looking at hip hop videos, and this is one song, and they just walked around the house talking about that for the next couple days. That and Queen, they like Queen. Don't stop me now. Go figure. So this exercise is called clarity of value. Clarity of values, and this is something that you can do with your students, and this is something that you can do with staff members as well. And what it is the background on this is decisions. And when people are making decisions, what it is and the choices that they make, what they're doing is just giving up something else. Okay, so you're eliminating something. When you choose, there's always an opportunity cost to it. So sometimes we choose because we think we have to. Like, no one, well, I won't say that. You don't have to be on this call, right? You don't have to go through training. You don't have to go to work. And I know that's something people like turning in their seat. No, but you do, because if you do go, then there's something that you receive for that, or there's a responsibility that you take care of. But the fact that everyone is on this call, or you're at work, or you're doing whatever it is, there's something that you are giving up. You're giving up family time. You're giving up vacation time. You're giving up other things that you can be rest, hiking, exercise. You're giving up something. And the thing is, it's not that it's not important. It's just what we want to do is understand why something is so important to us. And when we can get to a place that we're thinking of, why am I doing this? Why am I choosing this? And this is the type of process that we want to encourage our young people to understand as well. And so this exercise is called clarity of values. And what you're going to do is on your sheet of paper, you're going to write down, you can do it in 4 quadrants. And let me go ahead and illustrate a little bit. So you're going to write down these 4 things on the bottom, these 4 topics on the bottom. Social media account will go, so you'll have 4 boxes. Social media will be 1. Another box will be smartphone. The other, personal computer. Or laptop. And finally, internet. Okay. So when you get those on, and if you have any questions, feel free to chime in. So once you have all of those on your sheet of paper, you're then going to separate it to where you have 4 individual pieces of paper. So you can fold it in half and simply cut it. This works really well with index cards. And you have 4 independent sheets of paper. Okay. And what we're going to do is go through the process of decision making and making choices. And more importantly, what we're going to do is have a brief awareness of why it is that we're choosing these things at the time. And I'm going to ask you to throw the comment in there or the answer in there after a prompt is given. So we're going to start with 4. Eventually, we're going to get down to 1. Please, I know you can see, like, some people say, okay, well, I know exactly which one is going to be the one. Don't think too far ahead. Go step by step. Be in the moment with us right now as we eliminate it. And for some, they say, well, they're all important. I'm not going to throw any of them away. Well, here's the thing. If you don't play the game, you can't win. And so sometimes we want to be find a loophole or something, because it's much easier for us to say, okay, well, this is just what it is. I'm not going to play. But please play the game. As you go through it, I'm sure there'll be some value for you. Sticky notes work too. Yeah, great. Thanks, Lisa. So what we're going to do is we're going to begin to eliminate these down the line. And what you want to get to is the one that has the most value to you in this moment. Okay? Now, of the 4, what I'm going to ask you to do is choose one that you can absolutely be without and throw away, to where you are remaining with only 3. Okay? So look at those. Of course, all of those have value. We need them. But one is going to have to go. After you have thrown that one away, please put a Y in there, or good, or a thumbs up, so we know that the game is moving. There it is. Great. Natasha, good, 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 good. Peter, Kristen. Okay, great. Awesome. Now, here's a prompt, and what we'll do is Victor and I will be reading them out. Here's a prompt for you. In throwing that away, which one did you throw away, and what did it feel like to let go of that for you? So from your perspective, which one did you throw away, and what did it feel like to let that one go? And so feel free to just comment in. Amy says social media went, and it felt like a relief. Social media went away easy. Social media account. Release of angst. Wow, angst. Social media again. Social media, social media. Some regret, some freedom. Yeah. Threw away PC and felt calmer.
Oh, I threw away social media too, and I just want to make a point that, for us, I don't know what the average age is, right? But we're probably, up there, what, at least 10 years older than our students. And
Right?
imagine doing this activity with them, and would they say the same thing, and would they throw away social media as the first? Yeah.
Yeah. And here's here's the beauty in it is what it is as we facilitate this, or as we do this activity, there's no judgment. What we're doing is we're gathering information of the feelings of the ones that we're trying to inspire and serve. We're getting insight. And by getting insight, the same goes for cultural relevance, right? And understanding, the way that people come from different backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds. And so once we see that there's a driver, it felt like a relief for some, felt anxious doing it. For some, it just feels anxious. There are all different types of people. So we look at it, and once we see those, then we can decide on how we can engage when we know that their process of eliminating or choosing has some of these things that go along with it. Computer felt easy. Great, so we'll just move down the line. So now we have 3. We're going to choose another. This is a tough one. It's always different in the moment. Choose another. Okay. let's get a yes, 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 yes. If you guys are in, done, 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 done. Computer felt easy, done. Amy, done. Katie, done. Benjamin, PC. Okay, here's the next. In throwing, which one did you throw out this time, and what were you thinking as you were reaching to this point? You know, which one did you throw up, and what were you thinking about that, or what were your thoughts about letting that one go? PC threw that one out. Katie says, I have alternatives. Yeah. Internet for home, lack of resource, value to my life, smartphone, ability to have time without guilt. So now we're going into the thought process. Why is it that I am doing such a thing, right? Great. Internet for home use can find other ways to relax. Right now, it creates a little bit more freedom and something else to put your mind and attention towards. Okay, great. Now the next one, final one, you're gonna get rid of the final one. And then go ahead and toss that one out. Done. Internet. Now what I'm gonna ask you to do is write final, and for your final, write the one that you are left with. The one right now that's most important. I encourage everybody, just look through the chat, just scroll through the chat. Final, smartphone, personal computer, internet. Finding smartphones, internet, smartphone. Now, this is a question that I want to pose that we can throw back in, and anyone be free to answer. What is it that you can take from this exercise that can be an enlightening tool as far as understanding other people, understanding different backgrounds or other people? What is it that this exercise can reveal to you?
And meanwhile, I just want to comment. I know it's hard because you can't see each other's comments, but overwhelmingly, people are left with their smartphone, and people are saying that we have different priorities, we value different things, that it's okay to have a difference of value opinions. What we each value is different from person to person. It is different, and at the same time, doing this technology exercise, and I wonder if it's also different from generation to generation in terms of what we value as well.
Yeah, the interesting thing is the way that people make choices and decide. They come from this idea of an opportunity cost and where it is that they have a belief system in. And so we look at the idea of the word side, which comes from the Latin root cadere, that when conjugated, it's side, 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 side. And what cadere means, what side means, is the killing off of. And so when we look at how we're deciding, it's a killing off of. So pesticide, herbicide, homicide, it's the killing off of. And so when we see that someone is deciding to be disruptive, or someone is deciding not to show up, what it is the alternative is more important than what it is that they should be doing. So we have to figure out a way in order to grab their attention. And so Understanding that we all come from different backgrounds and different ways of being, and maybe we may not understand a culture per se, but what we can understand is that it's not that it's completely not important. It's something that they are choosing is more important to them in that moment, which brings forward this understanding of a high sense of empathy, a high sense of understanding that there are a lot of emotional baggages that are floating around, traumatic baggages that are floating around, that we need to understand with that patience, that extreme sense of patience, and saying, okay, you're being disruptive right now. What is it that's more important to you? Is it being disruptive or what you had to say in the conversation? A quick example of this was my daughter in her first grade class. The teacher was talking to us a lot because she talks in class a lot. And her explanation was, well, Pop, I was there and Emily was talking to me and I didn't want to be rude. And so sometimes we're not understanding exactly the point of view and perspective. And then when we fire off with through an emotional sense and trying to figure out how to get them back on track, our messaging is not being communicated. So what I like to offer is an understanding when things are not happening or we don't understand. Let's look at, okay, well, what's the alternative that's more or most important to that person? And what it's going to take is us figuring out ways to engage and find out more information. This exercise is absolutely amazing when you're live and people are inside the room and we're able to hear each other's answers to the prompts. And so I hope this was something that will create value, or if you have any thoughts as I just close out this little piece of it that has come forward for you in what we've just explained and what this exercise has offered. That we have a lot of things in common and feel similar to others. Yeah, Bethany? Let's see. Values change, Katie, yeah. Community connections. Yeah, understanding each other and having this heightened sense of empathy are the ways that we can create these culturally responsive rooms or engagement with our students simply by understanding where they're coming from first. So through exercises like this, having a guided dialogue, getting them grounded, and finding out what it is that makes them tick, understanding their points of view from their angle is something that we can take that information to then decide how we create the messaging moving forward with our instruction and our work.
Yeah.
Kristen
And
said, I think this exercise could be used in many different ways. Discover common values within classroom community. I can imagine some interesting dialogue. Oh, you're absolutely right, Kristen. For the sake of this topic and discussion, we use these technological pieces for it. But something that I've used in the past is love, respect, integrity, and achievement. Now, when you go down the line of elimination of those four things and you say, what did you think? How did that make you feel? Why is this most important? The type of discussion that it can bring forward is absolutely amazing. And so it could be anything that is important to young people, whatever it is that you see that they're into in class. This is something that they can understand that by making choices, they're giving up something, and it gives them an opportunity to think about it, to feel about it, and be able to convey that so that we can get the messaging to see how we can best connect with them. Did you have something, Victor?
Yeah, I just wanted, in terms of being a culturally responsive educator, is letting go of our judgment, right? Right now, we might have, I don't know, a lot of us had the same common ultimate final piece, which was the phone, but some of us had internet, some of us had personal computer, some of us had social media. And instead of judging each other, we kind of, explain to each other why, we chose this. Now, think about parents, okay? And let's just keep it real. Sometimes we, in education, a lot of folks in ed over the history of the system and today, maybe some of your colleagues, maybe some of you, really judge parents that are not there for their kids. Well, how can these people not care about education? Right. And some of us judge why parents are making choices that I will absolutely not bring my child to school or open the school up. I want to dump my kid on you. I want to drop them off. I don't care. COVID zero, not COVID-19. Right. So we place a lot of judgment on people, but don't really reflect on why they're making the choices they're making. And so when we come to sort of understand the values people have, we realize that at the very core, we all care about our kids and their education. At least 99.9% of us. There's always that one or two extreme cases of parents that are just like, uh-oh. But we tend to stereotype, and to be culturally responsive is to make sure that we first check our own values and check our own judgments before even engaging with some of these families who we may, right, have a heavy judgment against, because our whole society already judges some of the families we work with. Let's keep it real, right? Oh, these people don't value education. These people are teaching their kids, not to finish school. These people. And instead, we pull back and say, I can understand the circumstances and the environment as to why they're making their choices. And most importantly, it as a child, it's not your fault that your parents have made decisions that are not viable for you and your well being. So, therefore, as an educator, I'm going to make up for those decisions that have not necessarily been in your best interest.
Yeah, and speaking of parents, this was a great connector. Some of the work that I had done over the past few years have been in multiple juvenile halls here, leading parent programs and connecting parents with the educators. And so, sitting in the room with parents and then also having them go through this exercise along with some of their children. We had the opportunity to have some of their children inside the room with us, along with educators inside the room. And then we were able to address the non judgment piece that we all battle, that Victor was speaking of. We all battle and we all deal with that in some way, shape, or form. But it was a real connector for parents to understand, wait a second, you're saying uh, school is more important than work, when for a lot of parents it's like work is what's the main value here. That's what's going to get us through. And so being able to create that conversation through exercises like this is where we can gather information to figure out how we can best serve them. And the more people that are connected in the relationship, we're talking about, educator to parent to student, like in community, the more people that are within that cycle, that we can connect and be able to give this opportunity to understand that we're all just a little bit different and we're going to try our best to best support each other, the better off that we can be and have an ability to help create success for the young people that we serve. Any final thoughts before we move forward? Oh, well, well, that's great. I appreciate you all engaging in that with us, and I guess Victor will just continue on.
Yes, I was just reading a very powerful, powerful quote from Carrie Zola, and she says, "My mother lost her mother when she was 10 and never finished high school or GED after 2 attempts."
Mm.
And it says, "But believe me, she was a smart person. My brothers and I only realized recently that was probably the reason why she was never a parent, was part of the school group parent participating because she was intimidated." You know, that that gave me goosebumps. And thank you for sharing, Carrie, because a lot of times we place judgment. Oh, why aren't the parents here? Why aren't they participating in their children's education? Why aren't they helping their kids log in? So much judgment, and we don't know what lifetime these folks have lived and what experiences they've had. Maybe they want to be there, but they're intimidated by the system. You know, we tend to think as educators we're powerless. Right? We get paid a lot less than other professions. Our work is often underappreciated, and we work a lot of hours, 50, 60 hours a week as educators in the classroom. I mean, it's a lot of work. And so sometimes we feel powerless, right? But we forget how much power we have in terms of defining our families and our students in terms of labeling them. And if we're constantly trash talking families or judging them for not having their kids log in, for not having their kids show up, for not being part of parent groups and participating, we're erasing the history that they come from, and most importantly, the assets that they could potentially bring to the schoolhouse are invisibilized. In other words, if you just label a population as a problem family population, what can they possibly contribute to the school and to remote learning? But if you label them as potential um, contributors to the education process, then it changes everything. So one example, we've been working with parents on, we call it parents as teaching assistants in remote learning. I'll say it again, parents as teaching assistants in remote learning. What it is a simple training, no rocket science here. Well, the parents are on Zoom or on one of these platforms. They're watching us walk them through a very basic training. And you'd be surprised how many parents sign up for this training and say, "Thank you. I didn't know how to do these basic things." When your kid is sitting down, make sure you have a little glass of water for them. Make sure they have a pen. Make sure that everyone else in the house is off of Netflix and the other, internet connection, if possible, and make sure, right, that they're not distracted. They need to be on that computer on point. And the parents are like now feeling part of the teaching process. How beautiful is that? That a parent can feel like, oh, I could help the teacher out. Absolutely, you're at home. Um, Luckily, right, for some parents, they get to be at home, and for those that can't, we figure out ways to make sure the kids get supported. But the parents that could be at home, right? We bring them into the learning process. I mentioned in the morning that we're not just teaching one person in that screen, right? I know that for some of you, right? While you're on watching this, I'm sure your kids are running around. For some of you, I'm sure your dogs are running around. For some of you, I'm sure your partner is watching, and part of this is like, what's going on here? Who are these clowns talking to you? Right? I'm sure an entire family is right there watching us. And in the very same way, every time you teach your students, right? There's a whole family there watching. So now we're teaching entire families, entire communities. And as Love is saying, the way to do this is by making sure that we understand their values, where they're coming from, and that they know our values too. And that way we can meet halfway. We can meet in the middle.
Yeah, and it's such a great point. It's not it's the thing that I think we all are working towards is creating lifelong learners, right? We want our students to understand that throughout life, the ability to learn is endless, and that's why we go through professional development, and that's why we work on ourselves. But sometimes we get caught up to where we are at a level and at a place where we're just managing our day to day, and sometimes it's difficult for us to look at developing ourselves, and it's be very easy and kind if we're one of the type of people that seem to create judgment or something have that's something for us to work on. It's like the learning process, development process is not only in obtaining practical skills or a pamphlet on how to do X, Y, and Z, the hard skill stuff, but it's also the soft skill reflective part. Am I being judgmental? Wow. You know, creating that heightened self-awareness. Am I, well, maybe I can do this in order to keep an eye on that to see if it shows up. And that consciousness, that self-awareness there is really the work that needs to be pushed forward rather than really only focusing on the practical technical skills of doing things in developing, but that reflective inner work. And then once we're able to be the example of the lifelong learner that learns new technical and at the same time learns, interpersonal skills, that's gonna bleed over to those that we're leading. So I just encourage, everyone to be very reflective and saying, okay, what if, and even if you don't see it or you're not sure, keep an eye on it. Am I, you know, thinking in a certain way that's really limiting my ability to connect with people in general?
Yeah.
People in
And
general.
shout out to Asha Evans, who is as the youth would say, fire today. She says recognizing the assets is using an anti-racist lens. Okay, recognizing the assets is using an anti-racist lens. Like, let me just say something about being an anti-racist educator, right? That pre-COVID and racial revolution, right? We're in a racial revolution right now, right? um, and then this happens to be around the same time as this COVID pandemic hits, right? That's why I keep calling it the twin pandemics, COVID-19 and global racism, right? That nowadays, to be an anti-racist educator is to get rid of the deficit perspective and deficit language, because we know who we're talking about when we say these families don't value education. We're talking about Black, brown immigrant families, many times, most of the times, depending on what immigrant population we're talking about, right? And so to continue to say that is to be racist. Let's just name it. Let's just name it what it is, right? And so to be an anti-racist educator is to constantly reflect on who we're labeling and what label we're placing on them. To bring out the assets. Like, remember earlier I talked about we come from a storytelling population. The story is such a powerful story that comes from our communities. What other assets do our communities bring? We're familial cultures. When we make it, right, our whole family makes it. You don't believe me? Think about the local high schools during graduation time. Well, you give them, 4 tickets, for the nuclear family to show up to graduation, and what happens? It's like, nah, my whole squad's coming with me, my whole family's coming with me, be like 20, 30 people deep at graduation. Right? We're a familial culture. We're a familial people. When I make it, my whole community makes it. And so to bring that asset and make it the center of education and say, look, because my family brought me up and my community brought me up to be familial, when I get a degree, it's not a selfish enterprise, it's a purposeful enterprise that will help make this world a better place. How beautiful is that? Those are core values coming from our communities, but they're hidden and invisibilized because our communities are often relegated as, what some words our communities are called, urban underclass, you know, at risk, you know, impoverished, you name it, right? Even, you know, um, underprivileged, right? As if that's where we're supposed to always be relegated to, right? That we never can earn that privilege. And like I was talking about earlier, we're also not just traumatized, right? Trauma is just one thing that happens to us, but we're not full victims of that trauma. We're also survivors and overstanders of that trauma. We overstand it, we bypass it. We don't just overcome it, we overstand it. And so for me, the emotion informed approaches is much more part of the spectrum of emotion and something happening to me than to think of just trauma happening to me, right? There's more beautiful things happening to me too, and that I'm also contributing to my community and my society. So we support these families, we send educational and emotionally supportive messages targeted at students and their families, right? It's when you're on camera, like this, even though you're just like, Love is my student there, hello, Love, how you doing? And then Love's like, hey. And I'm like, hey, I don't know if your family's around, but hello, family. Just want to say hi. I know Love is on screen. I'm about to teach. And, hello to all the families on screen in the background. Hello to the little kids running around. We're going to learn today. Okay, family, let's do this. That's it. Just acknowledge the family. Positive message. Number two, by supporting the students, you are supporting the family, right? That we know this, right? In some cultures, we don't necessarily show up to the school and demand that you do all these things for my kids, like a PTA. I was a PTA president, so I can say this. Like a PTA or PTSA, parent would be up on the computer screen, like, hey, you better teach you better math to my kid. Or some of us defer to the school and say, look, we have a lot of respect for the teacher, a lot of respect for the school, and we know my kid's in good hands. Thank you so much. And we won't interfere. Sometimes that respect is read as these people don't care about education. And finally, develop a parent message on social media or other virtual platforms where the family can see you in action. And I'm going to give you an example right now, um, where one of you, before this session, sent me a an email with a video of okay, Catherine sent me a video of my talking pet. It's an app. She videotaped her dog and for a few seconds, and then the dog became anthropomorphized. So the dog started talking like a human and was sending her students some positive, affirmative, beautiful messages like, hey, how are you doing, Bobby? I really, you know, care about you. I hope you're doing well. Just positive uh, thinking, right? So positive thoughts. And you think about that, that's wonderful because it's just a personalized message. I don't think she posted it on social media, and she it's just personalized. Just she did it. Took her, I don't know, 20 seconds to do. She sent it to that one student, and that kid now has a little video of his teacher's dog talking to him, a positive message, right? So being creative about creating content for our students and for their families and parents, sending those um, uh, positive messages. By the way, Lisa Knowles just told me that Catherine was recognized as a New York State Social Worker of the Year in 2018. So I could see why you were recognized. Thank you so much, Catherine, for sharing that email for the work that you do. And again, teachers, you don't have to do all of this tech stuff, right? You don't have to become a tech expert, but I highly, highly recommend that you give yourself the task of mastering one or two of these platforms that you can then utilize to connect with your students and their families in a better way. So thank you so much, Catherine Ricchetti, for sharing this wonderful, wonderful um, uh, videos. Okay. So in conclusion here, because we want to take some questions for you from you. So start thinking of your questions and start typing them up if you don't mind. In conclusion, the transformative educator shapeshifts to meet students where they are at, right? We talked about this earlier. So making sure, right, that we're adjusting, right, so that our students can see us where they are at, because we all had to evolve these last 6 months. No matter our age, we had to evolve, right? And we had to relearn our society and how to engage with each other. So shape shifting might be a nice mantra for some of us, right? That it's okay for me to shape shift. It's okay for me not to have a fixed mindset and for me to have a growth mindset about this new teaching approach I have to be doing now. And then I'll do it with equity, do it with being culturally responsive, and I'll do it thinking about connecting emotionally with my students. And then someone is saying some parents don't value education because they're not receiving a quality education that values their child's identity. If that case, should they? Sometimes it's the product, not the customer. All right, D. Farley. Yeah, let's keep it real. Sometimes um, our parents, you know, through a system that devalued them, that failed them, that pushed them out, and then sometimes they see their own children being pushed out, right? So then another component of being an anti-racist educator is reflecting who are we pushing out and who are we leaving out, right? When the kids show up and it's the hybrid model and only some of them show up, you only have limited time. And then when you're expecting them to get on these platforms, who's not signing on, and um, are we following up with them, right? And usually we know who it is that's not going to be able to sign on, and what value and judgment do we place on them. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to questions now. I'll go ahead and, if you don't mind placing your questions in the chat box, that would be great, and I'll monitor it for your questions. Do we have any ideas on how to motivate teachers and staff who might be reluctant to embrace being an anti-racist educator? I'll just say something real quick on that. Absolutely. I think that it's about the story. It's about convincing them that they can be transformative educators to anyone that has been left behind. And we know who's been left behind, right? It's typically poor children, typically black children. There's all the literature on how black children are left behind. Boys and girls is typically brown children, Latinx children, some immigrant populations, right? We know who they are. So why not talk about it? Why not say we're going to support black children? We're going to support immigrant children. Is that excluding other children? No, we're going to support everyone, but within that, we're going to support these children because we see the metrics and the data that shows that we haven't been able to support them in ways they should be supported in the past. So it's really about having those courageous conversations with them, and then and the stories about how they could be transformative if they take on this anti-racist approach. Love?
Yeah, and also the story is important, and I think that's that's the vanilla bean in human connection. I think all of us can agree that when we speak or when we are moving about, we want to be seen. We want to be heard. And so asking and finding out the stories of these parents, the stories of these students, like having them tell and sharing from that perspective can open up a relationship that probably hadn't existed because everything is just to do from a workplace. And so really pushing the story, there's a lot to find out how much we have in common when we're able to hear someone's story by sharing our story first, understanding what it is that we're talking about that creates that connection between us. So in trying to encourage people to connect or motivate people to want to connect, something that we can do is by, okay, well, find out their story, find out their background, find out where it is that they come from, what's the driver behind them. And once that opens up, that parent, that person will feel much more comfortable, I would assume, feel much more comfortable in engaging in that relationship. But you have to want it, right? As an
Yeah.
educator, you have to want it to be able to make that happen.
Yeah, and I just want to say that one of the things we do is we actually provide this specific anti-racist educator workshop webinar with educators that are interested in this kind of dialogue, right? And it's a difficult conversation. The race conversation is difficult to have. It's a courageous conversation, but it's important to have. So I just posted a picture, a question by Dr. Archie. What is your thinking about offering instruction to older students in the evening dinner hours when parents are home? Absolutely. You know why? The home visit is a lot more easier than it used to be. The home visit is pretty much seeing if there's a possible time for some kind of virtual call with the entire family in the evening, and then asking the family to wave hello and just saying, I know it's weird and awkward sometimes, um, but if you have the ability to swap your hours, right? So the 1 hour you don't work in the daytime, you save that and you put it into the evening where you're checking in. And that could just be, once in a while that you do that. It's beautiful for the family to see you. It's amazing because they're just like, oh, there's the teacher. The teacher cares, right? And all you have to say is, hello, family. Sorry to interrupt. I don't want to interrupt your dinner, but guess what? Just want to tell you I care about your child and I'm here to support you and your child, and let me know how I could be um, of support. So yes, so the answer is absolutely. All right. So let me go to another um, question or comment from Amy Sarah Lamina. I love the asynchronous teaching this past few months. It was a lot easier to engage with parents as they were often with kids when they contact me in the early morning or late evening. Absolutely. You're educating entire families. Um, Catherine says, learning while Black really challenges teachers in a good way who wants to work on this. This is written by Janice Hell. I'll go ahead and paste it. And then I know that my book, My Teacher Believes in Me, The Educator's Guide to Promised Students, is floating around in your area. I'm thinking some of you or many of you will see it soon. And that has some practical strategies in there as well. You can find some more practical strategies and activities at my website at drvictorreels.com. And we're happy to join you in conversations about possible collaboration in terms of Love and I coming to talk to either students, parents, or more of your educators. We're definitely happy to continue this conversation with you and with your district. Jennifer Fox says, my co-teacher and I did some Google Meets with students in the evenings this year to help support families that worked and not home in the day. And I'm wondering, Jennifer, if you don't mind commenting how that went. Did it feel like it was worth the time and effort to do that? Yes, so Jennifer says it was worth the time as parents were part of it. So you see some of your own educators there. They're talking about um, how they're finding creative ways to connect with families. The literature all shows that when the student feels a connection with you, they're going to open up their academic um, abilities. And one of the ways to feel connected with you is for you to connect with their families. And Jennifer Fox says that some parents said they look forward to the meeting. So again, folks, just in conclusion here, final remarks from me is that, as one of you posted right now, uh, she says, Mrs. J says, appreciate the reminder and truth that when I make it, we all make it. And, absolutely that sometimes we come at students like, hey, you got to make it. You got to work hard. You got to do this. You got to take accountability, which is true. But if you culturally responsive, right? If you're dealing with a familial culture, you switch it, you flip it, and you say, hey, the reason you want to make it is for your family, for your community, for your grandma that's raised you, for your neighborhood that may not be doing so well, for your loved ones. This is why you want to make it. This is why you want to go to college. This is why you want to take on these academics, and giving them those cheerful, motivational messages as to why they want to make it because of their family connects directly to their cultural line, connects directly to the cultural logic that they've been brought up in. Not all your students, but many of them come from familial cultures. It's important to acknowledge that. And it's kind of counterintuitive because in education, we get taught that the number one indicator of success is individuality, right? You go off to college, you go explore the world, you become a professional, and you don't look back. But in many of our communities, we don't want to do that. We want to stay anchored. We want to be part of the family. We want to be part of the community, and we want to prop up our entire community. So thank you very much for your time. It's been an honor to have this wonderful conversation. We really appreciate all those beautiful comments. Love, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I actually have a closing challenge for everyone that's here. I would say find someone, anyone, no particular student or parent, find someone and ask them about a story in their life. Simply say, hey, can you share something with me about a time that you overcame a challenge? And just see what happens when someone shares a story with you. And if we're engaging in that way of trying to get stories from people, then it can create an opportunity for a much richer relationship where trust can be established and rooted in something. And then you just go back and forth and share a bit of your story when you overcame something. And you telling your story, you're going to realize, wow, how much that made you who you are and why it is that you've chosen to do great things and going into education. So I appreciate you all for the great work that you've done and still staying at it and the opportunity to be a part of this with you today.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, everyone, go off in. I know you have another few sets of sessions, so we'll give you some time to get ready for those. And thanks a lot for your time. Looking forward to hearing from some of you along the way. Take care.
Thank you, Dr. Rios and
Thank
Love.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.